Hey, everybody. We're coming up on the holiday time. I would be remiss if I did not mention the holidays. And so this is an episode that focuses on the practice of gratitude and what I define gratitude as and how I bring it into my life and how I would encourage you to consider practicing gratitude in your own. So I'm grateful for you as listeners of the show, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. So we're getting close to Thanksgiving, and I wanted to do an episode about gratitude. And we talk a lot about gratitude around this time of year. But before we get into it, I first want to acknowledge that Thanksgiving is a colonialist holiday that celebrates a bunch of people coming over to what is now the United States of America and calling it theirs when it wasn't. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, one thing I do like about this time of year is that we talk about gratitude a little bit more. And I think that we should be talking about gratitude all the time as a practice and not just around the holidays. Gratitude is something that I have organically adopted as a practice for myself, as a way to close out my day. It's something that I do when I get into bed at night. I speak out loud to the universe the things that I am grateful for. And sometimes it's really small things like, I had a particularly fun morning at the park with my dog, or maybe my husband and I had a really lovely dinner because he cooks and he's an amazing cook. And oh my goodness, I'm so grateful for that too. Sometimes it's things like that. And sometimes it's bigger things, my health and our home and where I live and my business and all of those things. Gratitude is more than just sitting down with a gratitude journal and making a list. I think it's actually a really powerful practice that can calibrate our perspective because it reminds us what's really important. It takes us immediately out of our heads. And if you can be like me and sometimes spiral on things or make things a little bit bigger than they are, or worry about things for just a little bit longer than you need to, gratitude is a really great, fast, and effective way to get yourself out of your head. When we are in our self-interest, oh, what's in it for me? Or our status seeking, how's this going to make me look? Or our scarcity, oh my gosh, I don't have enough. Or our survival, I just want to stay safe. When we get into those four modes, which we can cycle through those all day, when we get into those, gratitude is a way to get us out. Now, I look at gratitude in two ways. One is the way I just described, which is sitting down and being grateful for the things that I have, the people, the things, the experiences, etc. It's usually things like my home and my health and my marriage and my animals and my family and my friends, my car, you name it, whatever. And I think that that's just scraping the surface of what gratitude is, because some of that stuff we might not even have worked for. We just have it. But there's a second layer of gratitude that I think is really important in helping us develop relationships with ourselves. And that is the practice of being grateful for who we are. Not what we have, not what we do, who we are. Being grateful for who I am. I don't think that people are trained to look at themselves through that lens, being grateful for who we are. And I think about this through the lens of a concept called essence. Essence is the foundation of my work as a coach, and it is a concept that is part of a larger body of work called Coaching from Essence, and it was developed by a coach that I've studied under. His name is Robert Ellis. Essence is defined as your natural way of showing up in the world that adds value without you having to try. I will say it again. Your natural way of showing up in the world that adds value without you having to try. Meaning it's just in you. If it's effortless. It's not something that you learned. It's not your skill set. It's not your personality. It's not your passion. It's not your purpose. It's definitely not your coping mechanisms like perfection and overachieving. Essence is the core of who you are that enables you to do the things that you do that are unique to you and can't be replicated by others. Who I am, I have an essence. you also have an essence that is unique to you. And we don't spend enough time being grateful for who we are because it's self-serving, it's self-promoting, it's all of these terrible things that nobody wants to be. But here's the thing. We can still be humble and know who we are and be clear on who we are. Expressing gratitude for ourselves is relationship building with ourselves. That's being able to look in the mirror and like what you see. That's being able to recognize that, yeah, I did a great job here. This was a success, or this wasn't a success. It was a colossal failure, but I still did a great job and I still like myself for it. We are not on our own side enough in this world. I spend a lot of time talking about this with leaders, high up leaders and like transitioning managers, really sort of learning how to fit into your shoes, not based on what you do or the skill set or your knowledge, but simply who you be. It's your natural way of showing up that maybe isn't sexy or can't be quantified on a resume, but it's who you are. So I'll give you an example. My essence so far that as I understand it is that I am part fire starter, part door cracker. I like to light little fires. I like to turn up the heat on things, myself, situations in my coaching, because I believe that when you add heat to anything, it transforms. And in the physical world, that is true. When you add heat to anything, it transforms. It's also true for ourselves. That friction, that internal friction that we feel when we're going through a change, when we're stepping up to something new, those moments transform us. So I like to light those little fires in myself and with others. And I like to crack a door because I'm of the mindset that there is always more. To me in my life, more is more. And if there's one option, there's probably 5. And if there's 10 ways to do something, there's probably 30. And so I like to crack the door open to what else there is. And that's something that I'm very grateful about myself for because it has pushed me through in my life. It has fueled me forward. I also am grateful that I don't like the word no, even though it can be uncomfortable, even though it can make some things difficult sometimes. Not accepting no, both from other people and within myself, because I can also limit myself. I can knee jerk to assuming that things won't work or that I have limited capacity or there's just limitations. I can go there and I end up rebelling against that within myself. I'm grateful that I do that. It can sometimes cause a little bit of discomfort or stress, but I always get further. And so when we start to look at ourselves through the lens of essence, and we start to recognize that we are not what we do, but we be something, we begin to think about ourselves differently. That no matter the circumstance, situation, environment that we are in, we still show up in this way of our essence. And that is what creates change in the world. That is what has impact. That's what affects people. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying learning to be grateful for who you are. When you are clear on your capacity to change the world, and I do mean change the world, even in small ways. When you're clear on your capacity to change the world, your relationship with yourself becomes different and your perspective on life changes. And that's really why I do what I do, because our perspectives on our lives are often very, very limited. And you know what? It pisses me off. It downright outrages me that we limit ourselves the way that we do. And it's because we're very busy within the definitions of how people describe us and how others see us and the identities that we have developed as methods of survival. So if we can sit down and sort of peel back those layers and start to think about being grateful for how we just show up that is effortless, we shift how we feel about ourselves, which changes how we show up in the rest of our lives. It changes how I show up in the meetings. It changes how I show up with my peers. It changes how I show up with my important relationships because I know who I am on that essence level. And so that's the work of gratitude that I think is next level. It's like deeper than just, grateful for the health in the house. And by all means, I'm not diminishing the importance of those things. Please don't misunderstand me. It is very important for us to be grateful for the things that we have. But I also think that in order to move through this life with a level of confidence and humility, we need to start getting grateful and understanding more of who we are. Because I'm not what I do. I just chose to do coaching. But the fire starter and the door cracker was there when I was in marketing. It was there when I was in grade school. It was there when I could learn to talk and I started challenging my parents at a very young age. It's been there my whole life. That's what makes me be able to do what I do. And you have those parts of yourself as well. So in this time of the holidays, and by the way, I'm not a total curmudgeon. I do love the holidays. I love the twinkle lights and I love how people just seem generally more merry and hopefully are feeling less stress or find ways to feel less stress. I do enjoy the celebration around this time of year, but I also hope that you put some real weight and consideration into what you're grateful for and how you not only acknowledge those things, but how you express yourself once you do get clear on what you are grateful for, whether that be the things you have or who you are. It changes how we express ourselves in the world. And I think that is some of the most important stuff that we can become aware of is how we express ourselves and how we land on people and the effect that we have on people. So that's all for now. I hope that you've enjoyed this short episode on gratitude. I hope that you have good holidays, whatever holidays you choose to celebrate or not celebrate, and that they are as stress-free and as enjoyable as possible. I'll be back in another 2 weeks with our final episode of this year. And until then, lots of love and big energy.